This is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, where we review movies. Love them or hate them, someone's got to do it. So enjoy the show. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, anything else that gets in the mix. And I am sans April yet again, but never fear, I have Chris from Cinematic Anarchy. Hey, Chris.
Hello. I think I said hey a little too quick there.
Oh, here.
Oh, my own round of applause there. Even if it's canned, I'm good with it.
I mean, it never feels bad to be cheered.
No, never at all.
So, Chris, I had a mission for you to watch this movie, Tiptoes.
Yeah.
So what happened is there is a local station. I had talked to you about it on your podcast. I was on an episode where we talked all about Blockbuster and movie theaters and just overall cinematic expression or not expression. I don't know why I said expression. But just childhood memories of going to the movie theater and working in retail at movie stores and stuff. And I talked about a radio station that's in town. It's called The Freak. It's 97.1. You can hear it on iHeartRadio. So if you have the app, you can do that.
Nice little shout out.
Yeah, shout out. And I don't know exactly what transpired to have one of their hosts watch this movie, but he watched it and then told everybody else they needed to watch it. And some of them did, some of them didn't. And then some of the listeners started watching it. So then they started talking about it on the Facebook group. And I just kept seeing stuff about Tiptoes. And I was like, but every time they wanted to discuss it, I would turn it off because I don't like movies spoiled for me. So I was like, I've got to see this movie because they just kept talking about it. And the cast is pretty stellar, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I mean, it's an all-star cast. And I mean, I read a few things about it before actually diving into the film. And no matter how much you read about it, you're not ready.
Yeah. So some of the people, it's Peter Dinklage. He was in
he's been in a lot of things. Game of Thrones.
That's what I was trying to think of.
That's the big thing that everybody knows him from.
Yes, or Elf, right? Same guy from Elf.
Yeah. I believe so.
Then it has Matthew McConaughey, Kate Beckinsale, Patricia Arquette, David Alan Grier, and
David Alan Grier,
Gary Oldman,
Michael J. Anderson.
Yeah.
Who a lot of people would recognize if you've actually watched the HBO television show Carnivale. Mm. He was the basically the ringleader of the carnival.
Yeah. And it has 3 people that have won, 2 of them won Oscars, right? And then Peter won an Emmy. And so You think going into this, like, this is going to be a great movie. And
you would think.
It is so bizarre.
I was good with the movie up until like 1 hour into it. Like the last 20 minutes, it was all over the place.
Yeah. So before we get started with that, I forgot to have you tell a little bit about your podcast. Any listeners that haven't gone and listened to the episodes I was on with you.
Cinematic Anarchy, as far as I'm concerned, is just pure chaos. It's an ever-rotating group of film lovers that just love the good, the bad, and the fugly of films, let me tell you.
So this movie would fit in?
Oh, yeah, this would definitely fit in. When you mentioned this film and I started reading the reviews, I'm like, first of all, like, at best, it's like a 40% rating in certain places, a 20% rating in other places, and I'm like, this is something I'm going to love.
I thought of no one but you. I was like, I gotta see if he wants to be on and talk about this movie.
Throw all the terrible movies you want at me. I will watch it.
Yes.
So, yeah, and that's pretty much it. We're an unscripted film review podcast, or I use the word review very lightly. It tends to veer into ADHD meandering conversation.
Yeah.
So,
or sometimes drug meandering related conversations.
Yeah, I don't want to remember that really. That one time that I popped an edible before the podcast and just completely flaked.
I wasn't necessarily talking about you. I was talking about your cast of characters. Sometimes they smoke bowls while they're on the podcast, you know?
Oh, yes. Yes, they do.
Or in between.
In between, they'll throw back a couple drinks sometimes, too. I'm usually the most sober guy on the podcast, and it doesn't show.
Well, you know, when I was on an episode and we were like in between, I think we had paused recording for a moment to take like a little break. And someone was doing a pipe or a bowl or something. I don't know what they were doing.
That was Nico. She was literally packing a bowl right there on camera. Yes, I know.
So I'm in Texas. That's not legal. So immediately I was like, girl, what are you doing? Like,
oh, we are in the great state of Massachusetts. It is legal over here.
Yeah, I'm like,
they got stores on every corner now.
So, you know, I was just like, oh no. My Midwestern self was like, and I was like, oh, it's legal where they are.
Oh, hell no. Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, I've been on several episodes. I enjoy listening, and you guys have you play fun games sometimes.
Yep, we do a lot of different games. We do film pitches, basically trying to both create and cast absolutely terrible movies. We occasionally do trivia, a little bit of debating back and forth. It's usually pretty fun.
So, could you give our listeners a 30-second just review of this movie?
A 30-second review of the movie?
Just like an overview, like a hitting, just like, what's this movie about?
Okay, so a quick 30-second synopsis.
Yeah, just a synopsis.
Oh, wow, you really put me on the spot here. Damn. Okay, so Tiptoes is a film about a gentleman who is both absolutely enamored and embarrassed by his dwarf family. He is the only full-sized guy in a dwarf family. He has not told his girlfriend that he is part of this family, so it's sort of a secret to her, even though they've been seeing each other for a little while and they're about to get married. In bed one evening, she tells him, hey, we're about to have a baby, which sends him into a spiral. The rest of the film is about him trying to come to terms with the fact that she's having a child that may also be a dwarf, and him trying to reconcile with the fact that he may or may not actually want to have this child, while she is very determined to both meet his family, have this child, and become part of this world that he's sort of rejected, even though when it was just him by himself, he was perfectly okay with it.
Yeah.
So I believe he keeps both his personal life and his family like two completely separate things, because he's putting off two completely different personas that are conflicting with each other. Of course, Gary Oldman plays his brother or twin brother in this film. And throughout the film, there's sort of a hint of a love triangle as we get towards the end of the film. And Peter Dinklage, unfortunately, as much as I love both him and Patricia Arquette, just sort of play comedic fodder throughout the film.
Yeah. Agreed.
So that is a really bad, all over the place synopsis of what this film's about.
I mean, it's a pretty good synopsis. So a story that they talked about many, many times on the radio when they were referring to this movie is that Peter Dinklage had said that there was a 2.5-hour movie version of this that premiered at the Austin Film Festival, and to good reviews. Like, people liked it, But for some reason, the studio decided to fire the director, and then they made a whole bunch of cuts to the movie. And I don't know what was in that 60 minutes.
I've got an idea.
It must be cinematic gold, because this movie is just a hodgepodge mess, infuriatingly, like, undesirable.
It is the remnant of the 2.5 hours. Like, I guarantee you. Do you know a lot about Matthew Bright, the director of the film?
Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. I'm not quite sure.
Matthew Bright is most well known for the movie with it's Reese Witherspoon, Freeway. He is also well known for an old campy movie from the 80s called The Forbidden Zone.
Uh-huh.
Both of these films, this is what why I was expecting something very different going into this, and why I would love to see the 2 hour and 30-minute cut of this. Because I feel, based off of his films from the past, that he presented them something very much in line with his dark, twisted sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you it took a very different path. And even Peter Dinklage was saying that the original film was absolutely beautiful and he loved it, and that they bastardized the film when they turned it into this. So
the radio station, their whole goal is to find the original copy and to make that a hit, because it never was released in the States. So it could be up, like, let's just say they got it out before, Christmas of this year. It could be up for an Oscar.
I would love to see it, honestly.
Yeah. Like, I would love to see the revised version or the original version, because, like I said, it wasn't released in America, so you could still do it. Could release it now.
There are elements of a really fantastic film buried in the hodgepodge mess that is this current movie.
Yes.
The acting performances, honestly, I mean, Gary Oldman was amazing in this film.
Let's talk about that, Gary Oldman.
Oh, yeah.
So he's 11 years older than Matthew McConaughey. They're supposed to play twins. Now, it doesn't say that they are identical twins. So I understand that.
Right.
But where in the world would they look like they're the same age?
Apparently in this fantasy world, right here. They don't even look the same age while they're playing next to each other.
No.
But tell me that Gary Oldman doesn't do the best impression of him.
I will say
he does a good Matthew McConaughey impression, that accent.
Yeah. Well, so at one point, Matthew McConaughey, like at the beginning of the film, I felt like he didn't have his all right voice. He sounded like, maybe he worked with someone to get rid of his Southern twang. But when he was yelling at the firefighter, I never heard him sound more like himself than he did. And I was just like, how are these two brothers?
Keep in mind, this is like 2002 Matthew McConaughey, before he got into those really good award-winning performances. Mm-hmm. Before he leaned hard into that whole all right thing. This is like early Matthew McConaughey. So this was him at his worst, probably.
Probably, yeah. That's true. And Peter Dinklage, I love him. But
was beautiful in this film.
Why did they have to make him French? Why couldn't he just be British? Because he's British, right? Or English?
Yeah. I believe he's English, yes.
Like, why don't you just let his character be English? Because I didn't think he did a very good French accent.
I think he leaned into the comedic value of this, and I think maybe it feels out of place here because he was supposed to play a bigger role in the 2.5-hour version of this film than he did.
Yeah, because it feels like we don't know why they're friends. How did he get here? We didn't know that he was ill And just all of a sudden they mentioned it. Like, oh, he has a lot of health problems. We all do. But like, we were supposed to know that.
I mean, the way the film played out, it really just felt like an hour and a half long PSA on little people.
Yeah.
Done in sort of a Lifetime movie format.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, high budget, obviously, with big actors, but still.
Okay, so Gary Oldman, he is not a little person. They had him on his knees, and you can 100% tell.
They had to use some pretty creative angles, though, because I want to know how they edited out the back of his legs in some of those scenes. Because you moved around him a couple times.
Oh, yeah. And the ones you could tell when they were trying to save money because they would hide him behind stuff or have him grab like a blanket. I was just like, seriously?
Like waving behind the bar, or the scene where he was on the couch and it's obvious that he's standing in the couch.
Yeah.
It's a very low budget film. I mean, they could only pay for so much and CGI wasn't part of the game.
Yeah. And it was 2002, so I'll give him credit on that one. But I was like, oh man, it's like when you know someone's pregnant in a TV show and they're trying to hide it. Like Claire Huxtable with the big dog and the sacks of groceries.
They're only like filming like chest up, or they're carrying large purses or groceries or stuff to just kind of mask everything. Yeah.
Yeah, a folder, and they've never carried a folder before.
Little person Gary Oldman waving from behind the bar.
Yeah.
That was the best. I'm just, hi, I'm over here.
Hi. And so, okay, I have a lot of stuff. At the very beginning, I don't know what I was expecting. I didn't know it was rated R. So at the very beginning, he walks in, Steven, which is Matthew McConaughey, walks into his home. And Carol, is that her name?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Carol, Kate Beckinsale, she is painting. And they talk for a moment. He's leaving and she's like, oh, are you cheating on me? And where did that come from, first of all? Why does she automatically assume that? But whatever. And then she offers to give him a blowjob and he turns her down because he has to leave. And then she's mad about it. And I was like, in what world is the woman jazzed, first of all, to do this? And secondly, mad that she didn't get to. Just seemed off to me. That seemed like a dude edit right there. You're a guy. Tell me.
That whole scene to me was a little weird. First of all, like he's not telling her where he's going really.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you got a little thing on the side. So the first thought in her head was, I'm going to make sure that you remember me when you're going out there. So that's where she's going with that. He's turning her down because obviously he's trying to get off to a family function he's not trying to tell her about.
Yeah.
So immediately there's sort of the family is more important here. And I'm not sure if he's protecting himself or protecting them at that point.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I think he was waiting for her to actually just sort of force it on him. Mm-hmm. And when she backed off, you heard at the end, he called her, oh, you're the most infuriating tease. As he's walking out of the room.
Oh.
So I think he was expecting her to be a little bit more aggressive there, like actually take it a little further. And she was kind of not enjoying him pushing her off. Like, I gotta go. So yeah, it was sort of a back and forth there. She was kind of half aggressive, then backed off. He was expecting her to be more aggressive. That was my view of it anyway.
I didn't really they seemed not happy. Or maybe it's just because he's not so open and she feels that because she's the artist. So maybe that's what the disconnect between their relationship is. Because I didn't really feel like there was enough there that they were going to get married.
Well, there was definitely a part of him that he was keeping completely closed off.
Yeah.
And I think she was sort of expecting him to be a little bit more open with the marriage being just on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if he actually intended to ever tell her about his family or if he planned to just leave them out of the marriage process altogether. I think his hand was forced when his brother showed up at the door.
Yeah, for sure. Well, actually, when she got pregnant.
Well, even then, he didn't tell her.
Yeah.
He was very mad at her, but he didn't tell her why. And then he stormed off to his firefighter training.
Yeah,
still not telling her why he's mad.
And that's when he became super Southern Matthew McConaughey.
Right.
Uvalde Matthew McConaughey.
Well, he was low-key up until that point.
And I was like, he is so unlikable. Normally in every movie he's in, he has a lot of charisma, a lot of charm. Even if you don't like the things he says, he's still very charming. But he was not charming in this movie at all.
He was just full douchebag Matthew McConaughey in this.
Definitely the villain.
I can agree that there has not been a film that I've seen Matthew McConaughey in up till this point where there was none of that Matthew McConaughey charm.
Yeah.
And here it is.
Yeah, it's so bizarre because he's just a overly charming person all the time. Even when he's smarmy, he's charming. But this was just like, ugh. I don't like him at all.
Yeah, no, I can agree. This is not a likable performance for him, and I'm hoping that if that director's cut comes out, there's something redeeming in there.
Because it does seem like he loves his family. When he gets to the party that they're all at, the little once a year reunion thing, like he seems happy. He also, I felt like he didn't think he fit in with his family. That's what I first was thinking. He's been surrounded by all these small people and they all just kind of like don't like him because he's tall. But I guess that's not really it.
I believe that, from what I saw of him throughout the film, he believes that becoming the firefighter, doing what he has done with his life, is overcoming their disability.
Yeah.
So I believe he sees his family both as something he loves deeply, but also is also considered a disability for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am part of this. My, no matter what I do, if I have a child with somebody, this is going to follow me out into life. I'm never going to get away from this, so I need to compartmentalize it and put it over here.
Yeah, because did he say that he was also a dwarf?
Near the end, where he said, "I'm a dwarf." He's yelling about the baby.
Yeah, I was very
she wouldn't say the
confused
word.
by that.
Technically, on a chromosomal level, he is, because he can pass on the gene.
I guess so.
So even though he technically is an average-sized person compared to the rest of his family, he was able to pass that on. We
have someone in our family. I actually don't know if she is considered a little person, or just her things in her life, like her health issues and stuff, caused her to stay little. I'm never really asked, actually. She was just my family member. But nobody else in the family is a little person besides her. So I knew that it can be like a trait, but it's not always a trait. But I guess in their family, it runs strong.
It's a genetic thing. It's something that they can pass down.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's not, it's not something you can actually pass. What do they call it? Recessive?
Yeah. Because the family that had that show, Big World, Small People, I think.
Okay. I don't think I've seen it.
It was on in the mid to late or early to late 2000s. And it was a family. They had a farm, and the husband and wife were both little people. But the mom, her parents were average sized people, and 3 out of their 4 children were average size. They just had one son who was a little person, and then he had a child, and the child is a little person, even though he married a woman who was not. So it's genetics is weird.
So that sounds like a hit or miss thing for that family anyway.
Yeah, because I think the older son, because he was a twin, so just like this movie, they had twins. One of them was super tall, actually. He was quite tall. And then the other one was a little person, and he's had a child as well. And I don't think their child is a little person. So
Tiptoes, based on a true story.
Yeah, it's super weird, right? Though I think that came out after this movie. This movie was first.
I mean, just because the TV show came out doesn't mean it wasn't inspired by real life events.
True. I did have a question to go back to the beginning. Do you think she was painting vaginas?
Oh, yeah, like a Georgia O'Keeffe kind of thing.
Yeah, it looked very like flowery vaginas.
Well, I think so. I mean, she had a very sexual nature about her throughout the entire film, while also being reserved at the same time.
Yes. That is a very good way to describe her character.
She was outward, like personality wise, she was reserved and very well put together, but she also, like, her entire way or style of clothing was very outwardly sexual.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think that inner sexuality kind of showed through into her artwork. And I would have liked to have seen other types of art she had done.
Yeah.
Because they explain her as an artist, but that's like all you see. Mm-hmm. That right there. And maybe like the tattoo on her arm.
Yeah. So edgy with her tattoo.
It was a nice tattoo, but it was almost always blurred when they did like close-ups.
So then we meet his brother, Rolf. And his friend, played by Peter Dinklage.
Maurice.
And they're driving, and Maurice has an awesome motorcycle. Or trike,
Maurice
or whatever you want to call it.
Has the nice trike, and then I don't know what this other thing was.
I don't know. I think it was a device to show that he didn't have legs.
I think it was a device to actually conceal his legs.
Yeah.
I think that they had to come up with a way to put him on a motorcycle where they didn't have to CGI it out.
Like, why didn't they just have like a motorcycle sidecar sort of situation and just have them in the same vehicle?
Exactly.
But then they couldn't have had Patricia Arquette, I guess.
No, they couldn't have done that with her.
Or she could have just sat on the back, you know.
They had to put him in like an Easy Rider tank.
Yeah, it was super weird.
It looked like something out of a bad Mad Max movie. It really did.
Yeah, it did. And then, like, the first words Patricia Arquette's character says is, "The asshole is the strongest muscle in the body."
Oh.
And all I could think is that true? Oh. Seems like
maybe we should research that. I did not research that. I died laughing hearing it, though.
It was so just out of nowhere. I was like, oh, okay, that's your character, all right. And she had braids.
There was so much melodrama throughout this movie, but the whole Maurice Patricia Arquette thing was like comedic fodder throughout the entire film. Yeah. And I loved it. They played off each other very well.
Yeah, I liked them as a couple for sure.
She felt a lot like her character in True Romance.
Never seen it.
I feel like she was channeling a lot of that. You haven't seen that? Oh dear, you have to watch. Do you like Quentin Tarantino at all?
Yeah.
Okay, that was the first film that his first screenplay that was produced into a film. So he didn't direct the film.
Oh, okay.
But he wrote it.
Oh, interesting.
starring Patricia Arquette, Christian Slater, Bronson Pinchot, Brad Pitt is in there, and then Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken. It's a big cast.
Wow.
So it has the ensemble cast that he's known for.
Okay.
I recommend it highly.
Sounds good. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
So then we find out that that's his brother and that he was late to the convention. His parents are going to be pissed. And then we find him back at home and she tells him that she's pregnant and he does not handle it well.
No. He handles it like he had just gotten hit by a car.
Yeah.
That's how badly he handled that. Mm-hmm. Like he went from that smarmy, charming guy that we usually know him as.
Yeah.
And that's when he trips into full douchebag.
Uh-huh.
Right there.
And he
the rest
remains
of the film,
that way the whole way.
There is no redeemable qualities to Matthew McConaughey the rest of the film.
No. Mm-mm.
So if you're watching this for Matthew McConaughey, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he's not the likable one here.
No, not at all. Oh, I put Gary Oldman is not a little person. They're making it very obvious that he's not a little person.
It is very difficult for I think he even lost a lot of weight for this film.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't look like Gary Oldman to me because Gary's not a slight guy.
Well, what's weird is that his picture on IMDb, when I saw it, I was like, okay, they could be brothers. If they had left him looking like he looks there and just added glasses and a cane, I would have believed it a little bit more. But he just looks so sad and so just, I don't know. Too old. He looks way too old to be a twin.
They had to put a lot of prosthetics on him, and they had to work with. I watched like a little behind the scenes thing. So they had like a prosthetic piece for like his forehead
and his back.
His back. They also did some stuff with his hands and arms.
Yeah.
So he was in like almost head to toe prosthetics to be able to do this role.
That sucks.
Which I imagine was not easy for him, but at this point he's known as the guy that you saw Dracula, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dracula with Keanu Reeves in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's known as a guy that's into films that they put a lot of prosthetics on him and he hates it.
And yet he kept doing it.
And it's money, right?
True.
I don't know if it was money for this, but yeah.
And then we meet Sally, Rolf's friend. Apparently, they all went to high school together. And I was like, wow, two little people in one school. That's pretty cool.
Sorry. That brought back something a little later on in the film, but we'll get to that.
We can get to it now. The fact that she says, you haven't had sex with me in 5 months.
Oh, no. Oh. I'm talking about later on in the film where he's explaining that she asked his girlfriend, Carol, asked him if he's ever had sex with a little person.
Yeah.
And he says, no, I've never had sex per se, but there was like a point where a bunch of him and a bunch of the little people got together when they were kids and they would sit around in a circle and play doctor.
Yes.
And she's like, you had a circle jerk with it was with just you and a bunch of little people? I would have loved to see that.
That's how we know she's sexual.
There's some genuine comedy in this film, but it's weighed down by all the melodrama.
Well, and that's why I thought you were going to say when Sally, that part where he says no, and he had sex 2 years before me. And one time Sally had yelled at him and proclaimed, you haven't had sex with me in 5 months. And
it was in front of the teachers and the principal and everybody.
Yeah, he was such a stud.
And they were 15.
Yeah.
They were like 15. He's like, yeah. He goes, he had sex 2 years before me.
And so that makes you think that he loves his brother. He loves his family. He's perfectly fine with people knowing that they're little people. And so that's why there's such a disconnect when he freaks out later. It's just like, okay, you went to this party. It seemed like you like them. You go to this other party. It seemed you're getting along with everybody. Where did this, how did Carol pick up on this? Except for the fact that she never met his family. I would have just thought that she wouldn't be accepting of his family, and that's why he was keeping them away for them, not for her.
I think that he was desperately trying to keep those two parts of his life compartmentalized, like his personal life and his work life and his family life are two separate things.
Yeah. But did you think that before you, like during the movie or after you watched the movie?
I got that feeling around the time that she told him he was pregnant, that she was pregnant.
Oh, okay.
When I realized that he was the, average sized guy in a family of dwarves. And then she says, oh, I'm pregnant, and he freaks out and doesn't say anything. Mm-hmm. I knew there that there was something.
Yeah.
Because he could have just told her, my entire family, blah, blah, blah. He could have just dropped it right there. But instead, he got upset and just stormed off.
Yeah.
So he's been keeping it a secret for a reason.
That's true.
Whether it's embarrassment or worry that he's going to pass on this gene to any offspring he might have. So it's either fear or embarrassment that's just weighing him down and not helping him make that clean break. Say, hey, look, come meet my family so you understand why I'm pissed off right now.
Like a part of me would have thought, if I really thought about it, is that maybe he was wanting, as soon as she said she was pregnant, he was like, crap, now I have to tell her she might leave me because she's going to have a little person as a child. That's what I would have thought had I not seen the whole movie. I didn't think it at the time because I didn't know where it was going, but
they cut out some important stuff.
I really think they did. Yeah.
I read up a little bit. So the blonde woman,
Sally,
if you remember when she was on the phone, they had this weird conversation where he's talking on the phone and basically just talking to the lower part of her face.
Yeah.
And she states that she's been invited to this party.
Yeah.
And the girl, the blonde, comes out of the
shadows,
and he says, hey, Sally, played by Bridget Powers. Says, hey, you want to go to a party?
Yes.
So apparently part of what they cut out, he was kind of an asshole. Part of what they cut out is the fact that he was also sort of having a side fling with this girl.
I thought he might.
The trainees.
I knew it.
Had we gotten to see the whole picture, we would kind of understand that he was not exactly being faithful either.
Yeah. Just like she thought. And that would have been important. That's an important part. But maybe they thought they showed that with the little clips that they had.
It would have been very important for the end product of the film, the ending, last 10 minutes specifically.
Because I thought as soon as he said that to her, I was like, oh, okay, he's going to try and get back at her by being with this girl. And then he shows up to the party with two other trainees and not just the blonde. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe he's just being weird. I don't know.
And if we had that little bit of backstory, you would realize he's bringing his girlfriend to see his fiance at a party with his family.
I thought they might have some kind of thing because when he was yelling at the recruit, she came up and said something to him, and I was like, "Uh-oh." Oh,
yeah, she was the one that's like, "What the hell are you doing? Calm down."
That makes more sense.
So yeah, I mean, it's the little things you find out afterwards. Like I said, I watched a couple of little interviews while I was working today, and just they pieced together a few things.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not getting the whole story because we don't have the other 60 minutes worth of this film to see.
Yeah.
So.
And then we have Rolf at the same time. He goes over to his friend Sally's place that we find out that they've known each other since high school. She has some dude that lives with her. it seems like we got in the middle of a conversation that we were not privy to, that we were supposed to be privy to. And they cut it out. And so we're just in the middle of the situation. I mean, you kind of get caught up pretty quickly, but it doesn't quite make sense. Because we didn't know any of this prior to him going over there. But she has some man that lives on her couch, but she's fucked him a couple times. And then he comes home and she locks Rolf away in the room. And then the guy freaks out and beats him up.
After Rolf offers him money.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, hey, what kind of money do you need, man? Because he knows he's about to get an ass whipping right here.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have laughed at this part because I know that it's a larger man smashing a little person. But when he initially dives out into the hallway and is dragged out, then you see his cane come around the corner. He tries to pull himself out.
Yeah.
And then he pulls him back in. That felt like some slapstick comedy right there.
Yeah. But then what is he to do but to go to his brother's place? And of course his brother is not there. And so this is when Carol is like, oh, you're a little person. I have to go somewhere. I will be back. And she goes and finds her man and was like, hey, your little brother's here.
A little background information for that scene. The hat that she was wearing in that scene was the only contingency that she had for the director of this film to be able to take the low pay. She agreed to do the film because she liked his other stuff, The Forbidden Zone and Freeway, but she knew the pay was going to be low. So the compromise was that she was going to get to wear her lucky hat in the film.
Oh, okay.
And that is what she wore in that scene.
Well, I'm so happy for her.
I don't know that means anything to the plot. It's just she got to wear the goofy hat that most people wear at night to go to sleep, you know.
Well, thank God she got to wear her lucky hat.
I don't know what she thought she needed the luck for. This film bombed.
Yeah.
So maybe she retired it as the lucky hat after this.
Let's hope so.
Nobody had any luck with this film.
No. I mean, none of them became successful actors after this. So, you know.
Well, I mean, they are successful actors after this, not because of this.
True. That's true.
Not because of this. This wasn't the film that helped them to their stardom.
You've changed my mind.
I'm sure that nobody's ever gone, have you seen Tiptoes? Oh my God, this is why they all became famous. They
haven't until this week. It's been I guarantee you, Amazon is like, why is Tiptoes so popular? Just all of a sudden.
Everybody's watching Tiptoes? What?
Yeah, it's
you're screwing up the algorithm. Don't watch this. What are you doing?
Yeah, because they have like 16,000 fans on their Facebook page, and so I know people have been watching this movie plus the shows themselves. So has to, at the very least, has to be like 30, 40 people are watching Tiptoes.
So I'm going to tell you, I enjoy bad films. In the past 3 days, I've watched this movie 6 times.
Wow.
Just because the first time it just hit me like, what the hell did I just watch? And then I had to watch it a couple more times to pick up a few things.
Wow.
It's my kind of terrible. It really is. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so happy.
So she has outed his entire family as being, she called them midgets. This is where they had that argument where, would you stop using that word? You're going to piss off a whole group of people.
Yeah.
It's like, call them dwarves.
See, and that's why I'm like, okay, he's not an asshole. And then he goes and does another asshole thing after that.
Well, he does plenty of asshole things after that.
Yeah.
I don't even think him defending his family was him being, it was him being on his high horse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's defending them, but he's defending them out of anger about the fact that she even knows to begin with. If you're gonna sit here and you're gonna talk about my family, at least talk about them correctly.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to have this conversation, but at least use the right pronouns.
True. Yeah. And why is Marcel such a jerky dude? Is it just because he's in pain?
Like, the idea that I get is that he's in constant pain and he's constantly taking liquor and morphine. He's an alcoholic. He's an addict. And without the alcohol and the morphine, he's in pain all the time.
Yeah.
So he's either drunk, high, or pissed off all the time.
Yeah. Because during the party, he gets real pissed.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was definitely drunk at that point, too. I mean, like, shit-faced. You could tell just by the way he was handling himself. This is why I think that Peter Dinklage was probably my favorite performance of the entire movie.
He is really, I mean, he's spectacular in every movie he's in.
I never, like, his personality is so much bigger than himself.
Yeah.
So I have never seen him in a film where I just had him pigeonholed as a little person.
Like, have you ever seen the comedian Brad Williams? He's also a little person. Like, the two of them, both, they have, just like Matthew McConaughey, they have something. You would think, oh, they probably don't bag a lot of babes if you just saw them. But I
don't know. Peter Dinklage is a good-looking guy.
Oh, he is pretty good-looking. He is. And Brad Williams, he's a cute guy. But if you just saw them from afar, you're like, why are all those girls around him? And then you hear him talk, and you're just like, oh, okay, I get it.
It's the personality.
He's got something. He's just got it.
That's how he's gotten as far as he has.
Yeah. I didn't like him with braids. I felt like that was a little weird.
I think that it fit alongside of her with the braids, though.
True.
Like, she's like, I got the braids. I would have loved to have seen the scene where she sat him still and braided his hair.
That's probably in part of the 60 minutes that we didn't get to see.
Just a 5-minute hair braiding scene.
I will say this movie, it's very problematic. We're not saying that it's doesn't have its issues besides just all the issues we've talked about. I mean, her hair obviously is appropriation. Using the term midget, not great.
I understand. I actually gave that a pass.
Oh, yes, because they go to explain why he shouldn't, or that she shouldn't use that. But I'm just saying, there are things that they say or do in this movie that aren't done today.
There are quite a few things.
So, you just have to get past that and just watch it for the magic that is Tiptoes.
I would say it's early 2000s. So, yes. I mean, it's definitely a product of that time. They're not going to make a movie like this now. I'm praying to God that they re-release the director's cut, though.
Right.
I think that it would be received well, personally.
I think if people keep watching it on Amazon, they might.
I've seen people talking. There's a hashtag, the bright cut.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're propositioning for it. It's just not getting as much traction as the Snyder cut because this film was buried.
Join the revolution.
Right.
Revolutione.
Everybody go to Twitter, hashtag the bright cut.
Yes.
We'll put something out on Twitter later.
Let's see here. So
2002.
We have their families are meeting, and instantly her mom is like, oh, they're little people. You should have told us.
That entire scene was such a bait and switch.
Yes. So, she comes in, it looks like she's just so flustered that they're small and she doesn't get it. And they're having dinner and she says something. She goes, I've been thinking. And her husband goes, Sylvia, don't think. Because he's been relaxed. He's been himself. He's been having a good time drinking, making everybody laugh. And then she has to be the buzzkill. And you're like, oh God, she's going to say something about the mean little people. And then,
right, because she was just uncomfortable and silent the entire time, couldn't eat.
Yeah. And then the mom was like, what's wrong with you, Sylvia? Are you okay? And she's like, I've been thinking. And they're like, oh dear God, what is happening? And she's just like, your grandfather is dying. And he would really appreciate it if you did a Jewish wedding. Because if you don't, you can't be buried next to him. And they're just like, oh, yeah, we don't care.
You're waiting for her to say, like, I can't believe that these are all little people.
Yeah.
And she bait and switch to the Jewish thing, and everybody just stops dead quiet for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then picks up immediately. Okay, so it's a Jewish thing, not a little people thing. Okay, good. We're moving on. No bigotry. Got it. Yep,
you know
we can do that. I
applaud that. I really like that because you're like, oh, good God, it's not that big of a deal. And then,
well, I think a lot of this film preaches acceptance and understanding.
Yeah. Who would think that in 20 plus years later we would still be in that same place that we're preaching acceptance? And
there is a scene in this film that did not age very well, though.
Oh, what is it?
There is. So there's a scene. This is something you were actually talking about with Marcel.
Uh-huh.
I was going to say Marcel. No, it's Maurice. Not that I say Marcel like I'm talking about the monkey from Friends.
You know what? I think I called him Marcel instead of Maurice.
It's Maurice Marcel. Yeah, that's his last name. So Maurice is basically going nose to nose with his uncle.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey's uncle, and just having this massive argument between the two of them. And there's this whole thing where he starts talking about not liking the organization and what he's about, and saying something to the nature of these rights and freedoms are taken at the end of the barrel of a gun.
Uh-huh.
And then right after that, Kitty squawks back at him and says, no, this is America. We don't solve things with violence here. And I'm like, that didn't age well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, well, give it a few years.
Yeah.
Just give it a few years.
Well, and you know what? This came out in 2002. I guarantee you they probably filmed this in 2001. So it may or may not have been either before and or after 9/11 that they were filming it. So
I didn't even think about that.
That could be why they, had to put that part in.
I didn't even think about the time of production at all.
God, Chris, you're supposed to think of all these things. Jeez.
Well, you know.
You only watched it 6 times, Chris. God.
I only watched it. I watched it 6 times. I didn't research it 6 times.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I didn't really hit the Wikipedia page. I just had little YouTube things playing in the background when I was trying to work and couldn't actually look at the film.
Well, never fear. They get married. She's super pregnant. And then she gets out of the car when they're on after the ceremony and runs after Rolf.
Runs pregnant in high heels, mind you.
Yeah, and then kisses him on the mouth. And I was like, okay.
I was confused by that, just a little bit.
Did she notice? Like, I feel like we missed a something that he proclaimed his love for her. Obviously, they've been okay. What I really wish they had done was kept in a couple scenes where between these last 7-8 months that they've been hanging out.
It jumped too much. It did too much of a time jump
because we're missing that piece that shows later that what happens.
I think we missed the build up to the wedding and we missed the build up to the baby.
Yeah.
which happened like almost immediately thereafter.
Yes. So
It's
she
like,
has the
welcome.
baby.
Yeah, that's a scene. Oof.
One thing that bothers me when people have babies in movies and or TV shows, when they pick up babies or they're holding babies and they're either too small or they're too big for being brand new or they are too light, because she's picking up this baby and I was like, okay, that's nothing. You're picking up air. You really need to look like you're like trying. And it bothered me. I don't know why, but it bothered me.
I mean, I've been through the baby thing twice. I don't know how long after she had the baby they handed her the baby, whether or not they've gone through an entire thing first, cleaned the baby, taken it off. She's gotten a good night's rest, and now they're bringing it back.
Yeah.
I have no idea what happened between point A and point B because they deleted it all.
Yeah.
But there's usually, you don't look that good directly after having a baby. You know, there's usually a bit of a mess somewhere, a little bit of baby viscera, unless they've cleaned it up. You know, there's some. So the whole scene kind of went off unrealistically.
Yeah, because it didn't even show that she had like a problem during the delivery, that there was a problem with the baby. The doctor just, by the way, the doctor is a little person, comes in and is like, I think
they went to a little person hospital.
Yeah, they were like, Vincent is getting the medicine that he's going to need. This is going to be a whole life's worth of problems, yada, yada, yada. And you're just like, oh, okay, so she had the baby, and I guess the baby's sick, so we're supposed to know that the baby is a little person.
I think they used that to kind of explain, like they went right into it, like your baby is a little person. And then they start talking about hormone injections. And
and then he punches a wall because he's mad. Like, you had 9 months to prepare for this, sir.
He went from calm to going across the room, punching the wall. And when he turned back around, he was red-faced, snot coming from his nose, furious.
Yeah. It's just like, where'd that come from?
I mean, did we miss a whole scene where he went out into the hallway, did a couple lines of crack, and then came back out? And he was just out of his head?
It was on the door frame when he turned around and he sniffed it real quick.
And it punched the wall, just a cocaine in the face. It's like Cocaine Bear, except Matthew McConaughey.
Exactly.
Cocaine McConaughey.
It was crazy.
It went from 0 to like 200 in like 5 seconds flat, and then back down to 0 5 seconds later.
Yeah, and then she basically is like, we're in this, so deal with it. And then we see them at home, and the baby hasn't stopped crying for 2 hours, and they're both at their wits' end. And you can tell that they're going to get a divorce. And she won't say the word dwarf. And that's when he says that he's a dwarf.
She kept leaning on his condition, babies with his condition.
Yeah.
Like, what condition is that? Say the words. Say the words. Because in the months since we've been home, so it's been months.
Yeah.
We've jumped from the wedding to having the baby to months later in a very short, like maybe 5 minute span of this movie.
Yes. Yeah.
I think this is where most of the cuts happened.
I think so. And then she went from him storming off to her at Rolf's. Apparently lives in like a combine or some kind of, I don't know, looks like it could be a cult, just out in the middle of nowhere. Because he's a writer, which we didn't know.
It's a log cabin in the woods, basically.
Yeah. And Maurice and Patricia Arquette are there. Just doing whatever they're doing.
Basically tumbling into the end of their relationship in this film.
Yeah.
At this point.
I mean, they've already been together for like, what, a year at this point, almost?
Yeah. Yeah, and Maurice went from this swarmy, suave, kind of angry French guy to just pure asshole here, too.
Pretty much.
Because he said some misogynistic stuff about, you know, hey, good, we'll have a woman around here to do the dishes and do the laundry and
yeah, and then she says that she's going on her break time.
Like, nope. And then she goes inside and just pumps up the music. It's like, can you turn that shit down? That is way too fucking loud.
Right.
Way too loud.
And then meanwhile, Carol has been drinking and then immediately puts the baby on her breast. And I thought, you need to pump and dump, ma'am. You can't do that. And he even says something like, hey, you've been drinking. And she's like, I'm not drunk. Well, I'm not that drunk. Like,
not that drunk. Yeah.
Be like,
is it that drunk for that?
No.
I don't think that's a thing.
I think you have a drink and you have to pump and dump. I mean, I don't know. I have not been a mom, but
I suppose it depends on how long after you've had the drink.
Maybe. Could be.
Maybe you have to wait if your body hasn't processed out. I don't know. I don't know how much she had been drinking either. She was drinking though.
Yeah. And then we go like they kind of do a couple days or months, we don't know. And Rolf has helped with the baby to let her sleep. And then all of a sudden Steven shows up and basically tells his brother, like, love my son, take care of my son. Where'd that come from?
I think, like I said, I think a lot of this 60 minutes was cut out of the very end of the movie. That last 20 minutes of the movie, it jumped around so much because you jump, like I said, from the wedding to the baby to them breaking up to her going to his cabin.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a lot of stuff there that could have led to what you see at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because going from the breakup scene to him coming back and just sort of having this argument like, hey, you know, you're not ready to be a father yet.
Yeah.
You know, you can still like have him on weekends and everything, but for right now, you're still ambivalent about what's going. She loved that word, ambivalent.
Yeah.
About your family, and you can't be a father to a little person when you're ambivalent to little people.
Yeah.
So she was basically saying, we can't do this, so you can't really raise your child if you can't be accepting of your child. And so she sends him off.
Yeah. And then as he drives away, they hold hands. And then they're in the dark out in the woods. And he's showing her stars and then they kiss. And the movie just abruptly ends.
Just abruptly ends. Like complete. I don't know what was going on in the minds of the producers that cut the film this way. Yeah. But was it like, we give you no build up, no real reason why these two should have kissed.
Yeah.
Just what you see is them staring at the stars. Then she is transfixed on Gary Oldman in the little person's costume that he's in with his shirt most of the way unbuttoned already.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can kiss me if you want. And then boom, we're done.
If it was me, let's just say it was me, I would have completely gotten away or like done away with the wedding scene. Just didn't let the wedding scene happen. Cut to, they've had the baby. You don't know if they got married or not. And then they break up. And then she goes to the woods and hangs out with this guy. And for the next, 5-6 months, he's been the one that's been there helping her. And then Daddy Warbuck shows up and she's like, no, you're not ready to be a father, when you're ready. And then he tells his brother to love his son because he can tell that the two of them have something. And then it ends. Like that would have been so much better than.
I mean, they definitely were building on it even like back when he first showed up and he brought her to his family.
Yeah.
He's been trying to help her since almost day one.
Yeah.
Whereas Matthew McConaughey has been the absolute polar opposite of helpful.
You could kind of see it. I could get it. I could feel the vibe. I liked where it was going. So, and also I knew that happened. So maybe that put it in my head, but just the way that they were acting with each other and hanging out with each other, I could see a relationship between the two of them because they did everything in their power to divide the main two characters and keep them separated. So you could see the budding relationship with the brother. And
I mean,
I think that 60 minutes really would have helped facilitate some of that.
I think that you didn't need to have a whole 2.5-hour film, but at least another 10 minutes worth of relationship build up between the two of them just trickled in throughout the movie. Just so you got a feeling that end kiss it wasn't gratifying to have that end kiss and drop it that way.
You know what we could have gotten rid of? The party scene, the convention, most of the convention stuff. Get rid of the hotel stuff. Most of that could have gone away. And then you could have had this extra crap that would have really shown the relationship of the two and why they should be together.
I don't really think you had to get rid of either of those. Well, I just think you needed to build on them a little bit.
If they were worried about time.
If they showed some more truly intimate moments between the two of them, whether it be him helping out with the child.
Yeah.
There was some moments where she defended him in front of his brother.
Yeah.
And there were moments where he defended her to his brother. So I think just a little bit more of that nearing the end of the movie would have helped out a little bit. Even just seeing some extra moments in and about the cabin with them. Sorry, wrong word. That would have helped out a little bit.
For sure. I don't understand their thoughts and their feelings and why they chose to. You have this guy direct this movie, you show the movie, and then you fire him and then chop up this movie into this crap. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
I don't think a lot of what happened with this film made sense. Unfortunately, in Hollywood, the guys that bring the money to the table sort of have the final say as to what gets shown to the public because they're trying to make back what they put into the film.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that the people that handled this film, their ideas of what they wanted this to be were completely contradictory to what the director wanted this to be.
And when I heard that Peter Dinklage was in the movie, I assumed, maybe wrongfully, that he was the twin brother. And I was surprised when it wasn't him. I was like, oh, he's French. Why is he French? And then I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I thought he's the twin brother. And then when they were like, hey, this is my brother, I was like, oh, that is weird.
I didn't completely focus on the fact that Gary Oldman was indeed a little person in this film till we got to that original party.
Yeah.
Like, even when he was driving down the road, he was like, okay, well, he's kind of slumped in that a weird way, but maybe it's just the design of the motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then he got out of the motorcycle at the party. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I got a little bit of that too. I mean, I read enough about it beforehand to know that he was the brother, but I'm like, I felt Peter Dinklage was going to have a bigger role in the film, not just being the kind of sidekick comedic character.
It was,
I don't know. It was a little disappointing.
Because I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Peter Dinklage and Matthew McConaughey, I could see them being brothers. That makes sense. But they weren't.
I could see him and Peter Dinklage, yeah. Not so much him and Gary Oldman.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Though, again, Gary Oldman does a great Matthew McConaughey accent. He does. Like when they were going back and forth to each other, when they were yelling at each other at the party, like how could you not tell this woman about your family? You were at some point you were going to have to tell her that she was going to have a little person.
Yeah.
And just him yelling at Matthew McConaughey, and I'm like, it's just like Matthew McConaughey yelling at a smaller Matthew McConaughey.
Well, any final things you have to say about this movie?
I am not disappointed that I watched it 6 times. This movie gets a lot of hate. I read all sorts of reviews where people just trash this film. And I'll give you that the last 20 minutes of this film were a hot friggin' mess.
Yeah.
But it is definitely worth a watch for the performances of the lead actors. It's definitely worth a watch for the message that they put out.
Yeah.
And it definitely needs to have a director's cut release because it is killing me.
Right?
It's been 3 days. It's already killing me.
I really want to know what's in that 60 minutes.
I was scouring the internet till like 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday trying to find something, anything. And all I found was that little 10-minute clip on Vimeo.
Yeah.
That's it. And really the only thing that did was put the image of what's his name's butt in my mind. And I need to get rid of that. David Alan Grier.
Yeah.
It was just an extent. There was little bits here and there, but the most extended scene was the sex scene between David Alan Grier and the Sally character.
Yeah.
Like there was more. It was more graphic.
It was like, okay, gotten rid of all of that.
It didn't need to happen.
Yeah, there was no need for that. He clearly has a fetish.
I get that it also that scene though, it definitely drives the point home that Sally and him are really not meant for each other.
Yeah. And
kind of pushes him closer together with Carol. So as she's becoming accepting of these little people and the dwarves in Matthew McConaughey's family.
Yeah. So strange.
What did you think of the film?
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Again, I could see where they were going. I could see where it could have been really good. I just wish it had those parts in it. And I will say because they're trying to get the full version of this movie. And if they do, I will try my hardest to go see it and let you know what we missed.
If you get to see that film, we need find a way to send me the link and we can do a follow-up episode.
Okay.
I am all for it if they ever release that.
Yeah, because they're trying. They literally won't stop talking about this movie on the radio.
Don't stop talking about this movie. Honestly, I feel like there's something great waiting behind some curtain somewhere. Like somebody needs to pull the curtain back and look the wizard straight in the face and be like, give me the copy.
Well, I'm going to post it on the fan page for The Freak and let people know that we did the review of Tiptoes. So hopefully that'll get more people to go look at it.
Hashtag the bright cut.
Right.
Yes.
I'll even put that in there so then maybe they'll hashtag it.
Right.
So we can make this happen.
I'll put a link up on Twitter and everything. Hashtag everything.
Yes. yes. So, all right. Well, Chris, again, where can people find you and your podcast? Oh,
Cinematic Anarchy is literally out there all across the board. You can find us on almost any podcasting platform. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit. Though Reddit we don't do a whole lot with. Pinterest. All of that's all Cinematic Anarchy. You can find us pretty easily there. Twitter's the only one where we had to kind of mess with things a little bit. So on Twitter, it's Cinematic Anarch 1.
Yeah, we had to do the same.
ARCH1 because somebody already had her name.
Ugh. Lame.
And I'm not paying for it. Sorry.
Right. Well,
So,
thank you.
That's pretty much where you can find us.
Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Honestly, I've been waiting. I've been itching to get on this podcast.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
We love having you guys come over and visit us on occasion too. So
yes. We still need to do that one thing that we haven't done yet with the characters that you get you have, and you asked me to
we're looking to start recording the little I'm not going to talk about it yet. Yes, but we're looking to start recording that later on in the summer. So we built up a little cachet of podcast episodes to kind of carry us through the summer. And nearing the end of summer, we're going to try to bring 2 or 3 podcasts together and do this sort of battle that fits in with our film pitches.
Well, great. Keep me posted, and everybody go check out his podcast.
Oh, please do. Thank you.
And
keep listening to this one.
Oh.
Always feels like a pat on the back.
I know, right?
I love it.
They're my biggest fans. All right. Well, everybody, you can check us out at Two Chicks Talkin Flicks on Gmail, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of the above. And we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
This episode was produced by Two Chicks Talkin Flicks. Music was produced by Michael Giravani. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to be a part of the show, have a movie suggestion, or just want to give us some love, you can email us at twochickstalkinflicks@gmail.com. Thanks, guys. Toodles.